It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today's date is January 5th, 2026. Yes, I got the date right. How's that, John?
Sorry, I got to log out of the live stream for KFUO. Would you say?
Okay, first off, I'm going to go on public record and say, John, we're 47 minutes into this first show of 2026. I'm so glad you decided to continue on with the show with me, because I get so much personal satisfaction out of this. I enjoy the hell out of doing this show with you. We have fun. We talk about stuff, which is, sometimes it's goofy stuff, but a lot of stuff we talk about is topical and interesting. At least to you and I, it's interesting. Maybe a few other people out there, but
well, Brad, of course, and it's a highlight of my day, and I miss talking to you over break.
Well, I did as well too, because every morning I'd wake up and I think to myself, "Oh, we're going to talk about no show today."
Yeah, I know. It was kind of nice for a couple days to not have a hot take on the Somalis, though,
Right. Okay. First off, and one last thing before we leave the Somali thing in the dust, okay? The interesting thing to me was, I'm a nerd about stuff like this, having been through, owning businesses and matter of fact, my one business, don't ask me why this was, but every other month we got inspected by the fire department. I don't know if these guys were bored. I like the firefighters, but I would ask friends of mine who were in the same area as me, I go, how often do you guys get inspected by the fire marshal? Oh, like every 2 years. I go, they show up in my place like every 2 or 3 months, okay? And the interesting thing was, most of the time, they had legitimate things. They would test my emergency lighting to make sure the batteries were working and stuff like that. They'd check my fire extinguisher and stuff like that. But more importantly, they would check to make sure that there was proper ingress and egress for multiple locations. And one of the things that caught my attention about all these Somali daycare centers that Nick Shirley showed, they were like warehouse buildings where there was like a door in the front and no windows. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, how in the world do you get permitted for a daycare center with kids not having like all sorts of emergency exits? You know what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I'm guessing the Minnesota regulators knew there wouldn't actually be children there.
Maybe that's what it
knew
was.
That it would just be a bunch of terrible African food, if anything.
I saw that and I thought to myself, okay, these are like, because if you go to, matter of fact, when I lived in Hazelwood, we lived right next to a kinder care. The kinder care was right next to us, and the fire department routinely inspected them, and they had fire exits. Matter of fact, on the one side of the building, there was a fire exit right, that exited like one of our bedrooms where our house was, and people know exactly what house I lived in now because they figure out exactly where I was, but I don't live there anymore. I wish I did have that house back, tell you the truth. Like every car I've ever owned, I wish I had every house back I ever owned. Okay, so I was just sort of surprised at the fact that to me these buildings seem ill-suited for a daycare center, because once again, there's a front door, but there's no windows or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it just seemed to me like, okay, I would, and as a parent, I sure as hell wouldn't want to take my kids to a place like that. Because of the fact that I'm the nerdy guy would say, okay, if there's a fire, there's no windows you can break out to, get the kids out like a side window or something like that. No, it's all, and remember the whole story, which to me is funny. I don't know if you heard this story about one of the Somali daycare centers got broken into last week. Did you hear this story?
Oh, yeah. And magically, some of the documents were stolen.
That's right? All they stole. They stole.
Oh, man. Yeah, I know those documents are a hot commodity. They have a high street value.
Right. You can take them to the bank, and there's fencing on it. Hey, man, I got Somali daycare documents. Oh, man, that's $100,000.
Yeah, you can sell those on the dark web for a lot of cash.
Remember we talked about the tourist thieves who burglarized the whole houses in Ladue, and they stole
I bet that crew from Florida went.
Right.
After they went back to Florida, they probably took a flight to Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Well, remember they stole $700,000 worth of jewelry, and when they fenced it some Venezuelan dude for like $35,000. If they would have taken the Somali documents, $700,000, they probably would have gotten $1 million for those Somali documents. They could have gotten
so much more. And what we didn't know at the time was the Venezuelan guy was actually Maduro.
Let's talk about that in a minute. Okay, on a personal note, for those of you who have texted me and checked up on my health, as well as John did and Camellia, and I appreciate that, I didn't want to sound like I was being cat and mouse with my health things, but my deal was that I didn't want to worry anybody about my situation. And I did have on again, off again with one doctor, and I switched to another doctor. I will thank him publicly. Ryan Neff, Neff, practices out at the Palace on Ballas, Big Mercy out there at Ballas and 270. Excellent job. I had my surgery on Christmas Eve, and this is another part of the story that some people will roll their eyes when I'll tell this story. I told no one in my family. I told nobody. Now, the funny part of this is you can tell nobody from my family listens to this radio show because nobody knew about this. The only person that I contacted was my youngest son, Drew. And I contacted him because the date was sent for the 24th. And I contacted my youngest son, Drew, a couple weeks ahead of that time. And I said, Drew, do you work on the 24th? And he says, no. And I said, okay, can I have you help me that day? And he goes, what are we going to do? I go, secret mission. And he goes, no, Dad. I said, I'm not going to tell you. It's a secret mission. So I said, pick me up at my place at 7:15 on 24th, 7:15 in the morning. So he picks me up, and we're driving, and I tell him where to go. And he goes, what are we doing? And finally, we get about 5 minutes from the hospital. I said to him, I'm having my gallbladder taken out this morning. You're taking me to the hospital. He's like, come on, Dad. No, really, what? I go, you're taking me to the hospital. I'm having my gallbladder taken out. And I got a little bit emotional because I had prepared a folder for him with it. If I, and this is, I don't want to be over dramatic, but if
things went south, he needed to know proper documentation, right?
Right. There's crazy stuff about people go in for like a routine procedure and they end up dying, crazy stuff like that. And I'm an old guy, one foot in the banana peel, the other foot in the grave. So I got a little emotional. I gave him this folder and the whole bit, and he still didn't believe me. And we turned into the hospital, went to the parking garage. They have the surgery center. It's on the north side of the hospital there at the Palace on Ballas. And I don't think he really believed me until we actually walked through the front door, and they took me in, and it was very nice and wasn't busy that day, obviously on Christmas Eve. But the sad part,
nobody in their right mind gets a surgery done on Christmas Eve.
The sad part of it was, I said to one of the nurses, I said, you're not very busy this morning. And she says, no, we've got a fair number of trauma cases. And this is the thing that I always say about police, fire, EMT, hospital people, doctors, nurses, lab technicians, and stuff like that. There are no days off. If you get into a car accident on Christmas morning, the fire department doesn't say, oh, I'm sorry, it's Christmas. We're not coming to use the jaws of life to pry you out of the car. And here these people were in there working. And one of the nurses that took care of me was a traveling nurse who tells me she's not married and she's single and she doesn't have a family anymore. And she specifically works as a traveling nurse, and she specifically asks to work holidays so the regular staff can get their days off, which I thought was a nice thing.
And she probably gets paid more, right?
She probably gets a boatload of money,
So,
right?
she pretends that it's all altruistic, but she really just wants the money.
So it was supposed to be outpatient surgery, and I'm not trying to say that, woe is me, because this is sort of my life. Nothing ever goes easily for good old Brad, and there were complications. And the complications were that A, my gallbladder was not the right shape. B, it didn't have the proper stem on it. C, I had gallstones that had infiltrated other parts of my body, and they did not go right. Ended up spending a couple days in the hospital and got dismissed and, got out. And actually, I'm feeling pretty well right now. So thank you to my son, Drew. Thank you to all the nurses and all the people at Mercy out there. And there's one thing that's sort of funny, John. You'll get a kick out of this. As I'm out of surgery on Christmas Day, I'm laying in my bed and not in great shape. I had a drain in the whole bit. I was in a lot of pain. Not trying to say, oh, woe is me, but just the way it was. And the one nurse comes in, and she's got a little mobile, computer cart. She's typing stuff on it, and she looks at me and she goes, "Is this right? Is your age really right?" And I go, "What do you mean?" She goes, "You don't look that old."
Oh, Brad, she didn't know that you're actually 91.
She knows I was 91. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So I feel pretty good. I have my 2-week checkup tomorrow. We'll see what happens with that. Okay.
Hold on. Did you go about telling your 3 other children about the surgery?
I don't think with this interesting part of it was just last week, my ex-wife calls me up and yells at me about the fact that why didn't I tell anybody? And so I don't think my two sons, my one son that lives in Boston, one son that lives in Pensacola, I don't think they know to this day, and I haven't called them and tell them. So
because you feel like you don't want to cause them unnecessary stress, or they just don't need to know.
Well, they got their life. I don't, I got mine. I brought the kids up, but I'm done with that. And I try to be as low impact to anybody in my life as possible. I get
what you're saying, Brad.
I'm not a dramatic guy. Oh my God.
You don't want to be a burden to your children.
Exactly. I don't want to be a burden to my children or my family members. I'm just moving about my day. I'm an independent guy, live by myself, and to the point where that's the way, hopefully it'll be till the end of the time for me. So whatever it's going at. Okay.
And your ex-wife would just happen to accidentally listen to the show at the right time and heard you say that?
Finally, my son broke down and told her, Mom, I have to tell you what happened on Christmas Eve.
What wild disloyalty by your son there.
Yes,
Doesn't he know the primary rule of a son is to not talk about dad surgery?
Right. He spilled the beans. Okay, last thing. John, your opinion on us invading Nicaragua. And by the way, it came out this morning that our invasion of Nicaragua killed 32 Cubans. Have you read this part of the story?
It's Venezuela, right?
Venezuela. What did I say?
I think you're stuck in 1986. I think you're thinking of Muammar Gaddafi or something.
No. Did I say Libya? Is that what I said?
Yeah, no, you said Nicaragua.
Nicaragua. Okay.
Yeah, I believe it wasn't an invasion. It was a law enforcement procedure, right? And we're just going to take some of their oil for a little while and then hand the country over. Isn't that right?
John, I'll be honest with you. I have a problem with this. I think this is.
You think it's too much interventionism?
Here's the interesting thing. We go from one extreme to the other. We go from one president who sits on his beach chair in Rehoboth Beach and tells us how hard he's working when he's not doing anything. He has
and reminisces about corn pop.
Right.
And then on the other hand, we have Donald Trump.
Right. Who is just like a kid in a candy store or a bull in a china shop, whichever metaphor you want to use. I don't think this is right. And I will invoke the Tony Colombo flip test. Let's say Nicaragua, let's say Maduro.
Or Venezuela.
Or here we go again. Let's say Venezuela. Maduro decided he's going to send a bunch of people to grab Trump and take him back to Venezuela for a trial. We would be losing our you-know-what. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we would. As other people like Alex Stein and others have pointed out online, an exception would be if from Venezuela, if they're big booty Latinas, we might make an exception for them, right?
Well, the crazy thing is, have you heard what he's being charged with?
Yeah, he's being charged with drug running, right?
But also illegal firearms, illegal machine gun possession. I'm going, okay, come on.
Yeah, well, you know what? He didn't pay attention to the red flag laws.
Right. He probably had
they have in Venezuela. What I love most about this situation was I thought of you frequently in the last 72 hours because I've seen so many AI images and I've seen rubes online who are like, I can't believe that he's posing with, and they're clearly done by AI. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm surprised Brad hasn't done a wacky AI promo of Maduro endorsing the Brad and John show. Maybe we could get a visual of a dictator like talking to a short-haired barista at Starbucks, saying that when you're sipping your Venezuelan coffee, the only show you want to listen to is the BJ show.
Now, hold it. You told me you liked that video with the barista.
I love that video, but I'm not poking fun at it. I think it's great.
Isn't that amazing how well that came off? I mean,
it's amazing, Brad. I understand why you spend so much time with AI, right? Like when I saw the video that you sent me of Wendy Nordwald. And I didn't know that you could actually take a mugshot and remove the shirt.
I didn't do that. John's making fun of that. Okay.
Oh, okay. I mean, wink. Brad didn't do that. That's right. That's totally right.
John.
God, I hope your ex-wife isn't listening today, Brad. She'd be so jealous about that.
My ex-wife's like my mother. She never listens. Okay. John, once again, thank you for coming back in 2026 because my life would truly be a boring life if it wasn't for you doing this show every morning.
Oh, Brad, I feel the same way about you, and we'll talk on Tuesday.